So I've seen a good number of people talking about the new release Gleipnir recently, so I figured, why not, let's go ahead and give it a go. And honestly, I've never seen a series be so inconsistent and all over the place so immediately before. Now, there are series that go all over the place, like Tokyo Ghoul did, but it had 4 seasons to go off the rails, and the story and mood at least kind of stayed the same the whole way. Gleipnir, only 6 episodes in, lacks the consistency that a story needs to be compelling, among some other factors, but those mostly all feed back into this central issue. That's not to say it's a terrible series. There are some good aspects like its unique ideas and small detail work, but most of the ideas and decisions are, well, like the title of the video said, trash. So, quick recap if you haven't seen it. If you have, feel free to skip to the time on screen now. Shuichi is an average high school boy, sitting in the back of the room staring at the window, but he has a weird secret. With no knowledge as to why, he can transform into, well, this. He saves Claire from a fire with this form and almost does, let's just say, too much. Claire finds his lost phone at the scene and uses it as bait, making him expose his powers to her. In trying to learn more about the mysterious coins appearing, a young girl attacks them for the same reason and they flee. Seeing a zipper on Shuichi's monster form back leads to the revelation that he's a costume, allowing someone else to climb inside of him and amplify their power, controlling his body. With this new force, Claire uses Shuichi's body to kill the girl pursuing them, much against Shuichi's will. Days later, she reveals that her sister is like Shuichi, as she became a monster and killed their parents, leaving Claire behind one of these coins. This starts their hunt for her sister, Elena. They find her, and in a rage over someone else being inside Shuichi, she reveals she wished for him to be this way and almost kills him, taking off his costume head before leaving abruptly. To heal Shuichi, Claire takes him to a back alley hotel where the man asking people to find these coins is. He tells the pair that he's actually an alien and that those coins are the digitized consciousness of other aliens lost after they crash landed. And he can shapeshift into anyone with a bit of their hair. And he gives people the powers they wish for, but in a genie type way that abuses the uncertainty in their thoughts. This is how Elena turns Shuichi. Oh, and the first person to bring him 100 of these coins gets apocalyptic, world-destroying levels of power. So Shuichi and Claire's new goal becomes hunting down these coins in the forest where the ship crashed, where they encounter others to both fight and team up with. So first on the chopping block is the pacing. Now Gleipnir is adapted from a manga, so keep that in mind as we're moving forward, as that could have some influence on these issues. But these issues are super apparent in just the first 4 episodes alone. Now when things start off, there's 3 main questions that serve as goals. How did Shuichi become a monster? What's going on with Claire's sister Elena? And what are the coins? By episode 4 we meet the alien. He explains the coins, how Shuichi is a monster, and before that they just confronted Elena. And now having these points interconnected is fine, and honestly it's better. It keeps the plot tight, which is one thing I can give it credit for so far. But they're all answered so suddenly and with such little substance to them. Now let's look closer to their encounter with Elena, which was built up to be something pretty big. They catch up to her with the intent to shoot and bring her with them. Now Shuichi forces Claire to miss the shot, and Elena basically says, "Hey, I get it, I made you a monster, go ahead and shoot me," not knowing that someone was inside of him. Now Claire gets enraged at her sister and almost puts one in her skull, but the mega powerful monster finds her sister inside the boy she made a monster so that she could be inside of him, and freaks out, taking off Shuichi's head. And then it just ends because she gets a phone call. She just walks away. That she's holding Shuichi's head that she cut off, this boy that she wished to be this monster so she could be inside of him. And that's it. She's over it. She got a phone call, gotta go. It's narrative and character whiplash. Now, she's clearly unstable and might have some mood swings, but if she's out there killing all the time and has already killed family, why not finish this job? I think they could reasonably get the same end result and have it work, but only if there was more backing to this interaction, and if we saw a better excuse than a damn phone call. It also creates a situation with no consequences. Again, this was supposed to be a big thing, and they messed it up. But there's nothing that comes of it, so it just feels not important. There's also a weird habit in some of the early episodes to have a flash forward or completely separated scene at the beginning of episodes. So the scenes I was thinking of are actually both in episode 5, so they do a separate scene and a flash forward and then start the actual episode. So I don't know if that makes this better or worse, but I wanted to correct that there. And they're not grand world-changing moments, they're really just small things happening in the woods with some action. Now, so I don't really get why they felt these were needed, especially because when it's a flash forward, the action they're flashing forward to is only happening maybe 5 or 6 minutes into the episode. It's weird, and it feels almost like they didn't trust it to keep your attention unless they threw action in your face, so I just don't get why they felt these were needed. In a similar vein, and once again going back to Elena, her original reveal is a fake out, where they think it's going to be someone else and it's actually her. But they didn't even think it was someone else until a minute beforehand, so why have a fake out? If it was established episodes before, this would be fine, but it's mostly thrown in here for some reason. There's also what I'm just going to call thematic fake outs as well, which, I haven't raged about those since Akame ga Kill. Now, Gleipnir likes to say, this means something, right? Quite literally, Claire says the coin means something and that's about it, and uses that to argue that Shuichi's form must mean something too. Aside from the fact that that doesn't make any sense, after that scene they drop that idea. Later, the alien asks Claire if she likes or hates herself before taking her form and saying, don't you wish you could be your ideal form, but that doesn't seem to stem from anywhere because Claire never seemed to hate herself, just her situation. It would have been better if they picked a few core themes and developed them all the way through evenly, but they're putting so much focus on them at these specific points that even though they might be a little bit beforehand and a little bit after, it feels like they're all at once and then just being dropped and being brought in randomly. Hey, quick plug. So I make tons of other discussion videos in addition to reviews, impressions, and comedy videos all focused on the anime you love. Consider subscribing for more in the future or checking out a few other videos on anything from utter classics to modern hits. Also, I have a Discord server linked in the description for the channel if you want to talk anime with other fans or reach me directly. Anyway, back to the video. My final note on pacing, and this is one I always hate. Things just happen. These characters have to be here for this reason. Make it happen. The biggest offender of this is in episode 6. Shichiro lost her wallet off screen and mentions it to Shuichi, hoping his good sense of smell can help her find it. So they go out alone to look for it in the super dangerous only gatherers come here woods, while others just stand around and do nothing. And I'm going to be 100% honest here. I give zero shits about the pre-lost wallet of a character we just met. There's no urgency to this moment, no real reason for it to happen. Maybe because it's gatherer territory, they could find her identity. But that reason is so flimsy. I mean, nobody hikes in this city. Not a single person would venture into this forest. Shuichi and Clair got up there without gatherer powers, so why not? And then, why even bring a wallet? You aren't buying anything up here, it's only a liability, so just leave it at home or at your base that you have. They just need to get them alone for the naked chick and romance cliche quotas. It's the same thing with Claire's sister as well. They just vaguely reason, oh hey, she must still be around and getting help from someone because this vague city is tough to be in alone. A quick stakeout later and they find her. I just never found myself invested in what was happening. And let's not forget how Clair and Shuichi met. He loses his phone off screen and she finds it. So we do actually see his phone right there, but he doesn't make any clear movements or anything that would say he lost it right there. So we don't actually know that's his at the time, and although the next scene is him losing his phone, it's him looking for it the next morning, which is weird because you think he would have realized that beforehand. So it still is kind of just weird, and again, not a really great reason. Another very minor thing creating action, and menial action makes for menial motivation. I've lost my phone twice today alone. It's just something that happens. It doesn't invest me into the story at all. I think small moments are a huge arsenal in storytelling, but in a much different way. They need to have meaning under the surface, and without that, they fail as a driving factor. Another big negative factor is a super inconsistent mood. And this is mainly due to a war between three areas: fanservice, seriousness, and romance. Now, these three do conflict, but a careful balancing act could make these work together if they play off of each other in the right ways. What we see though is mostly separation and cycle. It's hard to take the serious moments seriously when 2 minutes beforehand was the biggest sexual innuendo ever. Let's look at Death Note for a second. Imagine if Light found out the Death Note worked after getting out of a steamy, let's see how close we can get to nudity without getting fined shower. And to keep the Death Note example going, his romance with Misa was in service of his goals. It plays into his serious and dark scenes rather than being a break from them. Gleipnir is simply working these concepts in a cycle where they do little for the others. To push this further, they're also weighted out of proportion. When your main concept is climbing into a giant vagina stand-in, there's bound to be a lot of time that feels just like fan service. So when they pull out a serious card, what's its basis? It's not prior serious moments or themes, but just sex for sex. Now don't get me wrong, sex is cool, it's a lot of physical contact, but it's good, I guess. And it can be a powerful narrative tool. In a huge twist, I'm gonna bring up Tokyo Ghoul again because I think Rize is a good example of how this can be done well. A lot of her strength in Tokyo Ghoul is due to her sadistic sexual personality, and she really is a one-note character. That's all she really has. But it works because she's just there to parallel this desire locked deep in Kanaki's mind once he becomes a ghoul. The desire is needing to eat, but these are both intimate, personal, and natural processes, so they parallel, with her sexuality deepening the dark theme. Claire isn't consistent enough for this, so when she gropes Shuichi or climbs inside of him, it's not in service of something deeper. I mean, it is getting deep, but that's not the point. It's really just sex for sex's sake. And in the same way, she's not contributing to any themes in a major way because her character is spread out across every possible one. They have a lot of one-off moments where they try to create a deeper relationship or deeper emotions between these two characters, but they're just that. One-off scenes. It's hard for them to mean anything when they're one-offs, and in between them all is a big metaphor for the virtual nasty. Even Shuichi, who to the show's credit has a decently deep half-philosophical moment and realistic character change, bounces around. In episode 1, when he almost takes advantage of Claire, it already doesn't make sense given the situation, but nothing similar even happens with his character later. Mostly he shies away from sexual acts, so it seems like another moment just to fill the quotas we needed more sex in the opening of the show. Both of these areas, the pacing and the mood, really come down to inconsistent choices that just failed to produce results. And what does this all equal out to? Well, an anime where nothing feels important. There's any number of series where the motivation is clear and pressing like Attack on Titan, or deeply personal but grows into something greater like Fullmetal Alchemist, or even something completely personal but still deeply engaging like Cowboy Bebop. In fact, I've even argued in the past that you don't need a clear motivation for a compelling story, as seen in the wonderful Terror in Resonance. But what's similar between all these series is true consequence that has weight to it in a consistent manner. And in Gleipnir, these things are just missing. The scattered pacing prevents anything from feeling like a true build-up. For a recent comparison, let's look at Vinland Saga. Now, this will have first arc spoilers, skip to this time if you want to avoid those. Tors leaves the Danes to start a family, so the Danes eventually find him and pull him back in, and now his whole village is involved. That includes his son Thorfinn, who stows away on the ship, leading to Tors having to give his life to protect him. Now Thorfinn is saved, but becomes everything his father stood against, and so on from there. Every major action taken has ripples of consequence that drive the action moving forward, creating a deep sense of motivation. Here in Gleipnir, the problems are solved and things reset. They kill the first monster they find, and things go back to normal. They find Elena, and the goals shift, and things go back to normal. And it's technically changing a little bit, but nothing is building. They're just starting over every time. This left me much less engrossed in the overall story because it was simply less developed. And the separated moods aren't helping this either. Now for probably, I'll say the 85th time, we're going to bring up Cowboy Bebop on the channel as an example of how something was done very well. Now, Cowboy Bebop was directed in a manner where the main storyline was kind of in the back seat. It shows up every now and then, but it was directed to be a bunch of mini-movies where every adventure, or every episode, is a different adventure. And so instead of building on the same storyline for the most part, they were building on the same mood, where it's this sense of banality and almost meaninglessness in all their actions in this futuristic, post-whatever, sci-fi western atmosphere. We see all these people and places witness every emotion under the sun and end up back in the same place every time, no matter what emotion this character was representing or what actions they took. It all ends in the same place. It made sense for them to restart every episode, because at the end of the day, there was no point to the action. Gleipnir is different. Now, I can't say for certain there's supposed to be a point, but I think it's safe to say they're not going for meaninglessness when the action centers around an alien with the ability to give world-ending powers to anyone. It's not the main character stumbling into half-philosophical or emotional revelations, because they're the ones going out and doing things directly. They're driving the action themselves. So the only thing that's really being built upon here is Shuichi and Clair's relationship, and I really don't see the need to address that in any deeper way. It's basic for anime, a bit rushed and juvenile with awkward sexual moments and talk about being a virgin. And the aspect of them feeling each other's emotions while paired is already kind of blown, being mentioned early and then used as a cheap way to mention that he likes Clair later. So at the end of the day, Gleipnir just doesn't cut it. Now, I will say, I am more biased against rampant sexual fan service. It's just not my thing. I like serious experiences. But I think that even with that in mind, all my points still stand. Anyway, that's all I really have to say about the show. So if you liked this video, leave a like below to let me know that you did and you want to see more like this in the future, or leave a comment telling me a show you want me to watch and do a review on or a discussion on, or any thoughts you had on this video as well. Also, I'll have that link to the Discord in the description that I mentioned earlier, as well as more videos on screen now if you want even more of that anime discussion-y goodness, all that great stuff. Anyway, I'll stop rambling, let you get back on with your day, and just say thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you again soon. Hopefully we won't have to talk about a vagina metaphor next time.